The Miz's Hall of Fame case is a hotly debated topic amongst wrestling fans. Some say he's a first ballot induction, while others don't even think he belongs in the conversation. That polarizing nature is part of his appeal. For the past 2 decades, he's been a staple of WWE television, and during that time put together quite a resume, including a 2-time WWE champion, WrestleMania main event, multi-time Intercontinental champion, and much more. I'm aware that a conversation about WWE Hall of Fame inductions can be almost nonsensical. With all due respect to him, Coco Beware is in the hall. So let's be honest, it's not the most exclusive club. Miz will no doubt go in once he retires, but does he truly belong with the other all-time greats? WWE's hall also suffers from a lack of legitimacy since it doesn't have a physical location. Not only that, but political aspects have hindered the best of the best at times from being inducted. Notably, Macho Man was not inducted into the Hall of Fame while he was alive. He should have been one of the first inductees thanks to his accomplishments and importance to the business. Now with that out of the way, I want to critically analyze The Miz and his place amongst WWE's all-time greats. On one hand, he has a greater resume than legends like Mr. Perfect and Scott Hall. However, there is little doubt in my mind that Mr. Perfect and Scott Hall meant more to their era than Miz did to his. They are generally held in a higher regard than he is all time. He's difficult to assess since he was a hated figure for majority of his early run, which includes his peak in 2010 and 2011. In later years, particularly in 2016, after his infamous Talking Smack promo on Daniel Bryan, Miz became more beloved amongst a larger portion of internet wrestling fans. To casuals and those who grew up watching him like myself and those I know personally, Miz was not viewed as a top star. While he was WWE champion in 2011, he felt like a side character during the Cena-Rock feud. Miz simply did not have the aura of a main eventer like Triple H, Batista, and John Cena did during that time frame. However, in later years, Miz has been a good mid-card hand, but his wrestling style and attitude backstage has not endeared himself with some of his peers. Notably, Daniel Bryan and CM Punk had their issues with him. The goal of this video is to analyze Miz's overall career and give the brutal truth about his legacy. So let's take a closer look at The Miz's career and where he truly ranks amongst his peers. Let's answer the question, is The Miz actually a WWE Hall of Famer? It seems like one of the biggest points of contention amongst fans and peers with The Miz is how he got started in the wrestling business. For those who don't know, he got his start as a reality TV star. He was a cast member on MTV's The Real World in 2001 and became a regular on The Challenge, which also aired on MTV. Miz's background made him an easy target for locker room hazing by fellow wrestlers. One name in particular, Chris Benoit, did not like The Miz. This story now lives in infamy after Miz told it during his WWE Network documentary a few years ago. I've also covered it in full on my channel if you want to learn more about it. As the story goes, Miz was kicked out of the locker room by Benoit for eating chicken over a referee's bag. Miz and many others feel like this was done simply because a lot of the boys didn't like or respect him because he quote took the easy way to become a WWE superstar. Miz debuted on WWE's main roster in 2006 after participating in the 2005 season of Tough Enough. This incident with Benoit took place not long after he joined WWE. Miz has been praised by peers like Dolph Ziggler and The Undertaker for the way he handled the situation. Undertaker eventually let him dress in the locker room in the months following Benoit's passing. I tell this story to give you all an idea of the uphill climb Miz endured to become the superstar he is nowadays. I don't think anyone ever imagined he'd be in the main event of WrestleMania early on in his WWE tenure. In one of the most embarrassing moments for any WWE superstar, Miz forgot his lines on live television once. Just listen.
Go to WWE, dial 86946 and vote for your favorite Diva Search contestant.
Miz's work ethic and dedication to the wrestling business is something even his biggest haters cannot take away, although some have tried. Jim Cornette is a well-known critic of The Miz. During a shoot interview, he stated how he doesn't like him because he feels The Miz only got into wrestling to be famous. I don't know if that's entirely true. Perhaps it was true at the beginning, but even during his time on The Real World, he highlighted his love for WWE. That is where the world was first introduced to The Miz persona. He busted his ass day in and day out to get to the pinnacle of the sport. Whether it was teaming with Big Show, John Morrison, or pursuing the United States title, Miz continued to rise up the ranks within WWE. He eventually broke through to the main event picture when he won the Money in the Bank ladder match in 2010. It was during this time where more backstage tensions between Miz and other top guys would arise. First, we have Daniel Bryan. Their tension actually began in early 2010 during the first season of NXT. Each member of NXT were known as rookies, and they were assigned an on-screen pro to mentor them. Miz was assigned to mentor Bryan, which Bryan was not exactly thrilled about. For one, he felt he didn't need a mentor or a quote pro. On top of that, Bryan felt like he was a better wrestler than Miz, which to be honest, he was at the time. Bryan was one of the best wrestlers in the world after making his name on the indie scene throughout the 2000s. However, this was before the days in WWE when they would sign a big name indie talent and just thrust them into the spotlight right away. We were still in the regime where the higher ups wanted to mold their prospects in a more WWE style. If Bryan had signed with WWE in say 2014, no doubt he would have been a main eventer instantly. Bryan developed a chip on his shoulder which motivated him to beat The Miz for his US title later on in that year. Now, as we know, Miz dropped the US title to focus on his pursuit of the WWE Championship, which he would win in 2010, much to the chagrin of Bryan and CM Punk. More on that in just a moment. Bryan held on to the underlying resentment towards Miz throughout most of their respective careers. Of course, Bryan would prove himself right when he became a bigger star and had a grander moment at WrestleMania 30 than Miz had at WrestleMania 27. Bryan just wasn't impressed with Miz's in-ring style. Another point of contention by many with Miz. He's viewed as someone who wrestles a safe, sometimes boring style of matches in the ring. Many fans have voiced this opinion for years, as Miz would often be viewed as the cookie-cutter template for a WWE-style match. Bryan echoed this opinion to Miz's face when he called Miz soft on Talking Smack in 2016. By this time, Bryan had already retired from in-ring competition due to several injuries. This comment enraged Miz, which led him to going off the script and cutting a passionate promo on the legend. He referenced Bryan being forced to retire because of his quote exciting style. Honestly, this could be the highlight of Miz's WWE career, as this promo was that damn good. Of course, the two couldn't settle it in the ring until Bryan came out of retirement in 2018. But their tension with each other was seemingly always present, which makes for great storylines on screen. Their professional rivalry still exists till this day, with Bryan recently stating in an interview, quote, "I don't like The Miz, but I respect him and he is underrated." This goes to show that even the WWE locker room is divided with their opinions of Miz. There are a ton of fans who feel the same way Bryan feels about him. Others enjoy his style, and he is a constant on WWE TV and always delivers a solid performance, whether he's in the middle of the card or the main event. But even with everything he's accomplished, many feel like Miz lacked true star power. Now that brings us to his rivalry with CM Punk. We all know about the infamous WrestleMania 27 main event. Some contest that John Cena vs. The Miz is the worst main event in WrestleMania history. Honestly, I would not argue with you if you think that. It was not that good and quite literally served as a commercial for Cena vs. Rock the following year. One superstar who has been vocal over the years about his disdain with Miz over getting the main event spot is CM Punk. He felt like 2011 was his year, which to be fair, it was. However, he didn't get to main event the show of shows. Honestly, Money in the Bank 2011 was a bigger show than that year's WrestleMania anyway, all thanks to Punk. Self-admittedly, Punk was obsessed with main eventing WrestleMania, a goal he has still yet to achieve. This obsession led to him having real-life beef with Miz. Punk felt he was a bigger star than Miz and should have been given the spot instead. Punk has that similar mentality that others share about Miz. He's a reality TV guy who didn't deserve the spotlight because he just wasn't as big of a deal as other stars. To me, Punk is not wrong for feeling this way. I mean, there were guys like Randy Orton who were bigger stars that could have been in the main event with John Cena. But let's be real for a second. The Rock was involved, so he likely wanted Miz in the spot to avoid him being outshined by Punk or Orton. Also, Punk was world champion twice in 2008 and 2009, and he wasn't exactly a needle mover. To me, Miz stands out as one of the weaker WrestleMania main eventers of all time. I know in hindsight it doesn't appear to be that way, but you've got to look at it with the context of the time. Miz was someone not viewed as a star by a majority of fans. Honestly bro, Miz's heel run at his peak in 2010 and 2011 was some of the most nauseating TV, and we also had Michael Cole as a heel. His match with Cena at 27 is up there with the likes of Bam Bam Bigelow versus Lawrence Taylor, Bret Hart versus Yokozuna, and Roman Reigns versus Undertaker as the worst main events in WrestleMania history. Just watch it back. Cena looks like he doesn't want to be there. This is a huge blemish on Miz's legacy, which is unfortunate because he achieved something that so few wrestlers get to do by being in the main event of the biggest show. He should be celebrated for this achievement regardless of how it came to be from a backstage perspective. And yeah, I know he technically won the match at first before Rock restarted it, so hey, I mean, he can kind of say he got a win over Cena, I don't know. But at the same time, he does have to take some criticism that comes with failing to live up to expectations on the show of shows. Miz was relegated to a throwaway match in the middle of the card at WrestleMania 28 the following year. He then would find himself floundering around the undercard, often being left off of pay-per-views entirely. Honestly, Miz might have had one of the biggest falls from grace for a Mania main eventer of all time. Regardless, Miz is known for being one of the best performers on the microphone this business has ever seen. His mic skills are second to none, to be honest. Now, I know he's not The Rock or Dusty Rhodes in terms of having witty catchphrases or a larger-than-life presence, but he is very believable and executes on the mic in a textbook fashion. Nowadays, he has become beloved by many fans as one of the better mid-card performers in WWE history, which is no knock to him, believe me. I'd love to have Miz's career. He's been successful within WWE for 20 years, has a beautiful wife, and is well known in his field. He's what I like to call wrestling famous. He's no international celebrity like Hulk Hogan or Undertaker, but he is famous within the wrestling bubble, which is ever expanding. Now the question remains, is he actually a WWE Hall of Famer? I say yes, without question. But should he be a first ballot Hall of Famer? Now that one is a bit trickier. I don't think his star power fits the mold of other first ballot Hall of Famers like Shawn Michaels, Edge, and Ric Flair. I don't think he can headline a Hall of Fame class. I just don't think he has the star power. I was searching all through WWE history and trying to find a comparison for him. I landed on two names, one I already mentioned, that being Edge, and the other being JBL. Miz has a resume and long list of accolades a la Edge, but to me, Edge is a household name while Miz is not. Edge also has far more world title reigns and spent a longer period of time as a main eventer. However, the two are similar as they were never really the top guy, but an argument could be made that they were the top heel of their era. Again, it's not a perfect comparison. JBL and The Miz are alike in the sense that they had vastly similar careers. Both started out their careers on the undercard and eventually found success as mid-card tag team acts. JBL with Ron Simmons as the APA and Miz with John Morrison. Both teams were entertaining in their own right for their own era. Then after separating from their partners, they went on to have short peaks. JBL peaked from the summer of 04 to WrestleMania 05, while Miz peaked from the summer of 2010 to WrestleMania in 2011. And both had the biggest matches of their career with John Cena. Then they went on to be stalwarts of the mid-card. Of course, Miz had more longevity than JBL, and even won another WWE title. However, they are both polarizing figures, with some thinking JBL is an absolute legend. Mostly people like myself who grew up during the Ruthless Aggression era think this. Others hate JBL and think he was overrated, which I can't argue with you, it's fair. If that's what you think, I understand. It's kind of their thing for both guys to be hated like this. They were both great heels, outside the ring and inside the ring. More I think about it, I feel like JBL is Miz's best comparison. JBL was inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame in 2020, not as a first ballot induction, but he deserved it thanks to his in-ring career and lengthy commentary career. When it's all said and done, if Miz were to headline a Hall of Fame class, I wouldn't be mad at it. I think he falls into that range with a JBL, where he deserves to get in and will be enshrined one day. But I don't think it'll be right when he retires or while he's an active competitor like a Rey Mysterio. At the end of the day, wrestling is a name-driven business, so the headlining spots are reserved for the most popular names, which Miz is not. Miz has given us some memorable moments throughout the years, particularly in the latter half of his career. His WrestleMania 37 tag team match featuring Bad Bunny is up there, along with his feud with The Shield. Basically, he was responsible for them reuniting in storyline, which was pretty cool. OG listeners of mine will remember my crazy rant after Miz won the WWE title from Drew McIntyre. Now, while that win was questionable, however, looking at it with clear vision, Miz was a great foil for a babyface Lashley to destroy. He is arguably one of the greatest Intercontinental Champions of all time as well. His IC title reigns rank second behind Chris Jericho, while he has held the title for the second most combined days behind Pedro Morales. There is a greater question to have about his legacy. Is Miz a top 10 or 20 guy? Probably not. I'd say he's comfortably in the top 50 to 75 range. What do you think? Would he have had the amount of accolades he has if he wrestled in the Golden Era, for example? I don't think so. However, a guy like Mr. Perfect would have had a more impressive resume than Miz if he wrestled in Miz's era. With that being said, Miz shakes out pretty nicely for a guy in his era where there was more content and more championships to win. He'll likely be remembered more fondly than peers like Dolph Ziggler, Sheamus, and Alberto Del Rio, who came from the same era and have similar resumes. So at the end of the day, Miz will be in the Hall of Fame one day. It'd be a travesty of injustice if he were not to get in, given some of the questionable inductions we've seen throughout the years. Yeah, he's not Shawn Michaels or Ric Flair, but he is more than just a random mid-card act. He's a guy you can't tell the story of WWE history without talking about. What do you think? Does The Miz deserve to be a Hall of Famer, particularly first ballot? Well, that'll do it for this video. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you on the next one.